All right, we're going to go ahead and adjust the valves real quick on this Mustang. This is a 289 hypo, so the 271 horsepower, at least is what I read in the Chiltons. 271 horsepower hypo 289 is a solid lifter car. So this engine's been built, and I know it's got different adjusters and rockers than it would stock. It still has conventional rocker arms. They are not roller rockers, but they did put some new studs and they put these poly-lock adjusters. So that makes it really handy for adjustment. These poly-lock adjusters, we loosen the nut and we've got a set screw in the center of the nut. So we back the set screw adjustment off. We tighten the nut down until we have the proper drag on the feeler gauge. And then once we set the proper drag, we wind the set screw down to lock to the top of the stud, and then we torque it. These poly locks get torqued to 18 to 20 foot-pounds. I've seen various different adjustments recommended for these, and what I'm seeing in general is 16 thousandths clearance on the intakes, 18 thousandths clearance on the exhaust. How we're going to go ahead and make the adjustment is we crank the engine over until the exhaust valve is completely open, and when the exhaust valve is completely open, the intake valve is prepared to be adjusted. Once we adjust that, we need to continue turning the engine over, and we've got to move past valve overlap. So then to adjust the exhaust valve, we crank the engine over until we've got the intake valve completely open, and then it's beginning to close again. So once we see the rocker arms start to come back up again. So that's what we're going to go ahead and run through here. Okay, right now I'm getting ready to move down here. So basically all I've got to do is I take a look at which valve is right above the exhaust manifold port, right? And I'm going to crank the engine over until this exhaust valve is completely open. I find it easy. It's a little easier than getting to the crank. I put a ratchet on the alternator, and if I put a little bit of pressure on the alternator belt, I can turn the engine over from the alternator. So we're already going past the exhaust event. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the exhaust valve. So right now I've got the intake valve is just about open all the way, and then we've got our open time or duration there, and now we're just starting to close back up again. So we're ready to adjust the exhaust valve. Exhaust valve, like I said, 18 thousandths of clearance, and I'm just going to check for drag, and this one is actually way too tight. We shouldn't have to force it. So I'm going to back that one off a little bit. So what we would do there is I'm going to loosen the adjuster nut. Okay, back the nut adjustment off, and I'm going to turn our set screw in a hair. That's the best way I can describe it, is just a hair. And then we're going to go back to our adjustment. Now, these weren't torqued when I initially started checking them, because I tried the very first one and the adjustment was close. So I went ahead to check the torque, and I got about a quarter turn out of it before it clicked. I'm right at 18 foot-pounds right now. So let's see how we did there. It's still a little tight. Like I said, it probably wasn't torqued before, and they probably just snugged them down, but I'm always a fan of following proper torque specs. our poly lock set screw in. Torque it again. So there's a little trial and error. It usually takes a few tries till you get them just right. And there we go. So I don't have a micrometer right here, but if you ever wondered what just right was, if we got this 18 thousandths feeler gauge, what we would do is we get a 0 to 1 micrometer, and if we set it to exactly 18 thousandths of an inch and felt the amount of drag we have in the micrometer, that's the appropriate amount of drag that you should feel when you're adjusting valves. So that's what we're running through on the Mustang, and that's just a real quick rundown.